Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, welcome to Side Action, episode 10 of season 4. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Action, we're back. We're on Friday. Sorry, everybody who's usually listening to us on Friday morning commutes, but you had a big outing last night with the commissioners or whoever trying to rub elbows with the bigwigs.
That's right. In previous engagement last night, so we had to postpone one day, but we're back better than ever. We've had an extra day to take in all the NFL news. Of course, it's a daily news cycle these days. Seems like every day now there's something new that breaks, so we got to stay on top of it.
It's insane. We'll talk about it, but it's been a crazy week in the NFL. So much news. We'll see how that affects the lines. I had another fun weekend. We talked about it going in. Ted Lasso made another appearance twice. Won an epic comeback in the softball game on Sunday.
Yes.
Action, I told you about this. We were down 5-2 going into the bottom of the seventh. We were kind of bad all day. Maybe there was a questionable call at first that I argued our way to get somebody on first base. They were safe. Then we proceeded to load the bases, force a couple of errors. We came back, won 6-5, going away, and it was because of the Believe sign. Action. We were all hitting the Believe sign that Ted Lasso had out there, and the other team was salty as hell, but we got the win. So another great volleyball outing on the softball diamond this time.
And was there a big Halloween extravaganza party afterwards, or?
Well, people were supposed to dress up for the event. I was one of probably like 8 or 10 who did.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a Halloween party on Saturday night. That was a good time at the Godfrey Hotel, kind of an upscale hotel. Pretty cool venue. Needed a dance floor. If they had a dance floor, that party would have been awesome. Plus, the DJ he didn't play the good stuff till the end, but we had a good time. We had some interesting cocktails. I drank a cocktail that was coming out of like a blood infusion bag. It was like a kind of a haunted hospital situation in there. But, Ted was popular. Got some photos with some people again. Saw Roy Kent and
Nice.
What's her name?
Kelsey.
Right, yeah. So they were at the party too. So it was fun time. And I went to a little dating event last night, it wasn't that well attended, but it was kind of interesting. It was a red light, green light party. It wasn't like Squid Game where you get shot, but
Spoiler.
they give you a wristband, and if you are if you're a green, that means you're single. Red if you're taken, and yellow if it's complicated.
Nice.
So went there with.
Which one were you?
I was green. It was funny. They gave us the green one, and then it turned yellow. Me and the two other guys I went with, all of ours kind of got yellowish, and we're like, whoa, wait a second. They're not getting downgraded to, complicated. So we had to swap out and get a new one, get a green one. So
Yeah, can't give any mixed signals there.
yeah, sometimes it's better, but anyway. Well, let's jump into this here. What was it, Bleacher's show on Halloween?
Oh, yeah, Melissa and I went to see Bleachers at the famous Fox Theater. It was the Fox Theater on Sunday, and
Nice.
Lots of costumes in the crowd. We didn't dress up, but it was a great time as well. Nice little Halloween outing.
That's awesome. And you've got another note here. Welcome, Florida, to the world of sports gambling.
Yeah.
You're late to the party, but there's always room for one more.
Yeah, I think I counted either 28 or 29 states now, and they took their first legal sports bet on this past Monday, November 1. So Another big population in terms of sports fans. I'm sure that Florida is going to rival many of the top states each month in terms of New Jersey, Nevada, and Michigan, really, that are leading the numbers in terms of sports gambling handle every month.
Yeah, a lot of D-gens up in Michigan, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have like 17 different sportsbook operators, so there's lots of opportunity here in the land of the blue.
Lots of apps. Yeah, exactly. Lots of outs. That's awesome. All right, well, let's go into week 8. Just our normal recap. We've got the underdogs came back this week, 10-5 against the spread. That's impressive action. 7-3 the road dogs. So it was definitely a road warrior situation. The unders were a little tighter this week, 8-7, and then obviously in general, road teams destroyed it, 9-6. So kind of back to that narrative we've seen most of the season, where the home field advantage means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the underdogs again are coming through. I think that was something to note. We've seen a little bit of a teeter-totter each week, so wonder if the favorites will come back this week.
They might, obviously depends on which teams are on the road or, on home, but we'll see. I mean, one of the home teams that did win was the Jets, so what can be said about that? I was going
Letdown
to note,
spot
yeah,
for the
right.
Bengals.
I was going to note that, in my little narrative that I've been tracking this season, again, if we can pick the side, we can do all right, because only one game really came down to the spread. I mean, the rest of it was all, and that was Monday night, right? The rest of it was, you pick the side right. If you pick the dog to win outright, you'd be okay. If you pick the favorite and they won, they usually covered. So it's kind of a weird narrative. We'll see if that continues as the season goes on, but I thought the lines would be getting tighter and this number would change, but it's still been in that kind of upper teens range of games in the season. Well, let's start the highs, even though it becomes a low later. The Packers take down the Cardinals in a tough spot without Devontae Adams, who had COVID, and Alan Lazard. They actually won the game outright and gave the Cardinals their first loss on the season. They won 24-21, covering that spread. Of course, we'll talk later about Aaron Rodgers and his debacle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a huge win for the Packers. It keeps them near the top for that number 1 seed in the NFC. But, I mean, you got to say that the Cardinals probably should have won that game driving late down into the red zone, and they surely at least had a chance at a field goal. And if it weren't for A.J. Green just totally taking the play off, they probably could have gotten into the end zone. So really kind of an interesting outcome, the way it goes into the final season tally. Keeps the Packers kind of high, well, at least they were, and the Cardinals take their first L on the season, and Kyler Murray got a little bit banged up, so we'll talk about that later as well.
Yeah, he's a key to their handicap. We'll talk a lot about that later, but he wasn't quite right. He hasn't been last couple of weeks. It's been a little weird for him, and we saw this last year. I mean, he's a little guy, so as he gets a little dinged up, it's just a different approach. I was, I think you put this one. Pat, Paul, Pete, whatever that dude's name, Mike. Oh, Mike White. Yeah, Mike White, the guy we couldn't get right last week, throws for 405 yards, which is like the second most as a first start in the NFL in like history, basically. At least Cam Newton had more, I guess, than his start. And he was incredible, but a lot of it was short passing against that Bengals defense to kind of get the ball out. 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions, but more importantly, he got the win, and something that Zach Wilson has done all season.
Yeah, they did get 1 win against the Titans, but certainly way better than Zach Wilson's performances. I think I heard someone say that this is the first time in 20 years since Vinny Testaverde played that the Jets had a quarterback throw for over 400 yards. So
yes,
quite a remarkable game for Mike White. And I think I had heard the reaction that really a lot of credit goes to LaFleur for the game plan, because they were keeping it short and White was throwing it to the back, the rookie back throughout the game, and completing a lot of passes, as you can see from the high percentage of completions.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had 14 catches, the back in question. So he's on your fantasy squad. Good for you.
Carter.
But we saw him, yesterday they moved the ball. We were kind of talking a little bit, we already missed the Thursday game, but they were getting hammered in the game against the Colts, but they still completed a lot of passes. I mean, and that Colts defense isn't that great against the Packers, but yeah, I mean, they put in anybody. Mike White got hurt last night. They got Josh Johnson throwing the ball. So maybe it is a Zach Wilson issue. I'm not really sure. I mean, they're not going to be rushing him back, aren't they?
No, I'm not even really sure what the injury is, but I recall it was 3 to 4 weeks, at least, for the prognosis.
Mm-hmm. Another positive is the New Orleans Saints. I mean, we were on this obviously in our picks, but more importantly, I just think Tampa, they don't match up great against the Saints. It's kind of these matchup things we talked about. And, that front four can get pressure. They obviously bring pressure, linebacking crew sometimes. And they just kind of have Brady's number. He did have 4 touchdown passes, but they've been able to beat Tampa 3 out of 4 times. Really should have beat him in the playoff game too last year. Dennis Allen seems to have the game plan to stop Brady.
Yeah, they do. That secondary was dynamite, and big interception on the last drive that I think they returned for a touchdown too.
They did.
So their defense certainly is playing on another level.
Yeah, a little surprised me that game went over the total, but that's fine. We're not on the totals there, but definitely got the win in that one. How about the lows? The Vikings. Oh my.
Nice.
These guys, look, I kind of like Zimmer as a coach, especially when he first started, but it's like he hasn't evolved. I don't. You're playing against the Cowboys. They've got what is the Cooper Rush? That sounds like a band or something. And they I don't know what kind of game plan they weren't trying to score. I mean, it was such a low scoring game, and they let Cooper run the last minute drive to win the game, and they lose outright. It's just a weird game.
Yeah, I missed most of it, thankfully. But I was reading later that they just got completely conservative. They had an opening drive touchdown, which looked fantastic. Yep. And then it's like they just thought that they could hang on and defeat the Cowboys just by going super conservative and not throwing the ball down the field. And obviously that did not work out for them. And they got beat. So certainly a disastrous performance for the Vikings. I wonder if they're going to be able to bounce back from that after losing that game.
Well, and it's at home too. I mean, I don't. We talked about that maybe a home field advantage, but they've lost a couple games this year. It's a similar situation when they played the Browns, where that first opening drive was great, and then they don't score the rest of the game. I mean, it's a little bizarre. We'll see what happens. Here's another low that I keep hitting really hard on the blog and here. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, dude. I mean, this guy. I love him. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good player, and I think he'll probably get out of this. But there's obviously a game plan to stop this dude. He refuses to hit the check down and refuses to run the ball. He got 10 interceptions, which leads the league, and they just seem broken on offense, dude.
Mm-hmm. And their offensive line is performing really well, at least according to the metrics, but they just refuse to run the ball like they probably should as well. So I think it probably goes to Bieniemy and even Coach Andy Reid too, in terms of their game plans, because it's clear that the old dynamic throw the ball down the field is not working. So they have to make some sort of change.
Yeah, and it was interesting in the red zone. That's kind of when they've been struggling the most. They're kind of a 20-20 team right now. They can move between the 20s pretty easily. In the red zone, I don't know if they're getting too cute or not cute enough. There is that defense. I was watching the Manning cast. I don't know if you've been watching that. I love that way more than the regular telecast on ESPN2. I'm not getting paid, but if you want to pay me. So they spy Mahomes. They double team both Kelsey and Hill.
Yeah.
And then he can't do anything. And they only rush 4 or 3 sometimes. And so it's a really interesting defense that they have to think about. But I thought this right when I saw the alignment on the last play, he took the sack and they did get the win against the Giants. Just run the goddamn ball. I mean, run the friggin' ball. I mean, I know in that case it was like 3rd and 7 or something, but sometimes that'll work. You could pop off and run if everybody's in man coverage. But I don't know. It's disappointing.
Yeah, I know the running back. I don't know if he's a rookie or second-year guy. Derek Gore came out and looked pretty spry last week, so you got to wonder if they'll give him some more touches. I've been, stashing Jerick McKinnon on my fantasy team, thinking that he was going to get some run out at some point, and they refused to put him on the field. So they're going to have to look to run a little bit this week against the Packers, and it'll be interesting to see if they actually do it.
Right. We'll see. The last is Carson Wentz. Sorry, Action. Your Colts, and they obviously were our pick too. He kind of screwed us. He played pretty well. He's great at getting the DPI, the defensive pass interference. But this interception that he threw in the end zone with his left hand, I've heard people blaming Reich for the call. I'm like, it's the dumbest play I've ever seen. I mean, God, he's getting sacked, throwing left-handed right to the. I mean, oh man! And then he threw the bad pick at the end of the game, triple coverage, just checked down to the back. And he played pretty good last night, but that was just an awful performance.
Yeah, that the end zone interception, it was a poor call on the screenplay back there, but for him to throw it, it actually in the end turned out to be better for us as Colts backers because it gave them time. They got the ball back immediately instead of taking the safety, and they got into the end zone, tied it up. We went to overtime, and we probably still should have covered at that point had he checked it down to either Mo Alley Cox or Jonathan Taylor. They pick up that first down, so just a case of him trying to do too much as well.
Yeah, he gets a little bit in the hero ball category. And I just thought in the end, especially, you don't know what's going to happen going forward, but them losing that game, I mean, they won last night, but they would get that win. I mean, the Titans now with Henry's injury, which, foreshadowing, here we go. Henry's out for the season, basically. Yeah. So, I mean, that gives them a chance, but now they're basically 2 games back effectively even if they get tied, they have to win. They have to be a whole game ahead. You can't split the series. So anyway, that's what we call a transition in the industry action. So King Henry put it down. He had surgery on Tuesday. He's done for the regular season, maybe back for the playoffs. So we'll see, but an interesting foot, injury that I'm not sure what it was. I don't know if it was a Liz Frank. I didn't really get the details on it, but he's out.
Yeah, really tough loss for the Titans, and I've heard all kinds of speculation this week as to what he really means to the point spread, because typically you would hear from every gambler that a position player can never be more than half a point or 1 at the most. Quarterbacks obviously are in a different category, but I really feel that King Henry is probably up there in terms of value to his team, considering how much they like to use play action pass as well. We'll see if Adrian Peterson can really cut the mustard and live up to Henry's high accolades.
Yeah, if Adrian Peterson can transport himself like about 6-7 years ago, sure. But, the thing about him, why he was just not just difference maker, just running the football, I mean, he can take anything to the house. He's getting these short screens and going to the house. I mean, it's completely going to change the dynamic of that offense. So we'll see what happens. I do think it actually might help a Tannehill who's going to probably run a little bit more, and A.J. Brown. I mean, hopefully Julio that goes to Julio Jones can show up again, but it's going to hurt the Titans in the long run, no question.
Yeah.
You've already talked about Murray. Murray obviously looks like, well, from the line, we think that he's probably not going to play, right? He's not officially out, but, I mean, the line is telling you the story right now where it's flipped from, they were the favorite and now they're the dog in that game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the move just like last week with Dak. It's almost lockstep, the same exact timeline. Right. He also hasn't been present at the open portions of practice this week, even through today, Friday. And I've seen several reports here this afternoon that he's going to be questionable. So it looks like it's going to be Colt McCoy lining up for the Cardinals on Sunday.
Right. Some other news, I mean, it's just been crazy. Calvin Ridley, we don't know what's going on. He's got some personal situation. He's out indefinitely. He missed last week's game. He's going to be out for a while. That doesn't help Atlanta. Jameis Winston, too bad. I mean, he obviously had a pretty good run when he was in there, tore his ACL on kind of a rough play there. So it's the Trevor Siemian show, not the Taysom Hill show right now. We'll see what happens with that. Sam Darnold, we'll talk about that later in the handicap. He's concussed. It looked like he probably won't play. We'll get Walker in there. Boy, the 2 biggest stories, though. Well, let's jump. I'm going to jump this one. So we're going to go first, the trade. Von Miller goes to the Rams from the Broncos. That's a huge trade. They're really going for it again. What do you think about that action?
I love it that the Rams continuously put all their chips into Super Bowl basket. They don't really care about draft picks, which I respect.
They don't. I don't know if Von Miller, he's clearly not the same player he was, say, Super Bowl run, but who is, right? But at the same time, I mean, it's hard to argue when you've got probably the best interior rusher ever. Not ever, but definitely top 5 guy in Aaron Donald, and now you've got an elite guy on the outside. It's just going to help Jalen Ramsey and the crew. I do like that. And then Beckham obviously got dismissed, so whatever. Let's get to the 2 big topics. First, which one do you want to do first? I mean, they're both. One's probably more impactful for the spread than the other one, but
I was
I
trying
guess
to remember the timeline. I think that they both came out in the media like in the same hour or within 2 hours of each other.
crazy. I'll go Ruggs first, just because it's a tragedy, and obviously, our guy. I was working, I was working at work, and we get our proxy is sending us messages about Henry Ruggs, who was going 156 miles an hour down Rainbow Boulevard, which is like not a residential street, but it's not like a highway; it's a surface street. Drunk and killed somebody, and terrible story. Obviously, he was cut by the Raiders this week, and deservedly so. I know the Cars stepped up to try to support him as a person, which I totally understand. It's rough, dude. This is rough. I mean, DUIs are real, and in this case, it's a young guy, and he's only like 22 years old or something, right?
Yeah, really sad for sure. And really have to wonder how the Raiders are going to be able to bounce back again from another, tragedy within their organization. They had to go through this already with losing the coach Gruden, and not that these are on similar wavelengths whatsoever, but certainly a distraction from football.
No question. And then the biggest one for the point spread probably is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this dude, I think it's interesting. Everybody knows the story probably by now that he was immunized by some sort of homeopathic forsythia. Have you ever seen that one movie, was it called Contagion, where they had this like kind of phony cure called forsythia that they were pimping out, and it actually didn't work. I kind of envisioned that he was taking forsythia. But anyway, he says straight up to the reporter way back, and basically got denied by the NFL on his exemption, but he wasn't following any of the protocols. So, he's obviously got COVID. Yes, he was John Wick. Who cares about that? But what do you think about all this? I mean, I heard he can't get suspended. I heard that he can't get suspended, but the organization get fined. He's obviously going to miss at least 2 games. But
do you mean there'd be no suspension under the league rules for breaking protocol?
That's what I heard.
Okay.
I heard that because the Players Association or something would just jump all down their throat, but they can definitely fine him in the organization.
Sure.
Because they didn't follow protocols.
Yeah. Well, I do know for sure that due to his unvaccinated status that he's out for a minimum of 10 days for team activities. So
that's right.
The earliest that he can return to the organization would be next Saturday, which is
right.
obviously one day before they play the Seattle Seahawks next week. And
right.
That line, the look-ahead line on that game, which you can bet at a number of spots, has not moved yet off of the Packers -5 number. And so, I mean, you would have to expect that he's going to be back to play in that game regardless of having not practiced all week. And
right.
We just have to kind of move forward with that thought process.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we'll see. I mean, it's yet another distraction, though, right? I mean, to do distraction all off season, they've been playing well, despite all that. I mean, losing Adams last week with COVID, and now this week we'll see against the Chiefs. But I don't know. I mean, in Packerland, I'm sure that I don't know how they feel about him. Maybe they don't like him or whatever. He's obviously given them wins, but I think even more than Henry, is going to move that point spread like crazy. I mean, we've probably already seen it, but it's valid. I don't know if it should go as far as it did, but more than even Dak or somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, the number we can talk about it when we get to that game, but you're talking like 8.5, 9 points now on the move.
That's right. Well, let's kind of quickly go over the power ratings. We spent so much time on the news. Kind of similar here. I've got Bills, Cardinals, Bucks, Rams, and Cowboys in my top 5. And look at that. It's exactly the same as DVOA. So we're doing something right. DVOA and the WEGS index. Thank you.
Golf clap. Yeah, that's impressive. I can't believe it. I mean, maybe you broke into like the secret algorithm of the DVOA research and all the numbers align, or it's just that the teams are pretty clear cut, and I think it's more the latter.
Yeah.
There's a pretty clear delineation of contenders and the rest of the league.
Yeah, there's another grouping of like 4 teams. You got the Browns, I think they're on my list, but like 4 teams, like the Patriots and Ravens. There's like kind of another tier there that's definitely below this group. Mm-hmm. So, but we'll see if that plays out. I mean, there's still a lot of questions. You still got the Cardinals on here. You got, Cowboys. Dak should play, obviously, but there's still question marks even with some of these teams. the Browns, especially on your list on number 6. Well, let's jump into it. We can skip last night's game. Thanks, Action.
Colts winner. There was some point spread drama at the very end as the Jets were driving. I'm sure half of America who had bet the Colts I for one thought the Jets were getting in the end zone to get in the back door there, which would have been remarkable after being down 42-10.
Yeah, 42-10, and they almost come back. I mean, crazy, but good for the Colts. Good for Jonathan Taylor and Wentz played pretty good. Mm-hmm. So let's go into this first game, which is very interesting. Houston is going to Miami. Miami opened as a 7-point favorite at home, 45.5-point total. Now in the contest, it's 4.5 with a 46.5-point total. Now we were talking about this before the pod. I was all disheveled. I mean, the market is 5.5. Wherever says 6. This is 4.5. So we were discussing this with Tyrod Taylor. Circa's making the point that it's going to get bet down, and this 4.5 will be more like the closing line. That's what we're thinking?
Yeah, I think this is another instance where they're just projecting ahead of where they expect this game to go by kickoff, now knowing that Tyrod Taylor's back in at quarterback. And remember, through a game and a half, week 1 and week 2 in Cleveland, they were moving the ball and putting points on the board. So they have lost a few pieces since then, and certainly Tyrod likely hasn't been practicing. He hasn't been practicing, so it could be a little bit rusty. But I think that there would probably be only one way to look for me on this game, and that's with Houston, because I don't trust Miami and Tua in the slightest.
Okay, gotcha.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I think you're right. I think that when I was looking at the game, even at 6, I was thinking, Miami's at home, but I can't go with this team. 7 points? Come on. And this team isn't playing very well, even though I liked him in the preseason. And with Tyrod, I mean, it's logical that everybody's going to pick that game. So I don't know. It may be a good stay away spot just in general, because who knows what will happen. But 4.5 you can't go with Miami on that. With 4.5, there's no way.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next game. Denver and Dallas. So Denver's on the road. They lose Von Miller. We'll see how much that point spread matters. But Dallas opened as a 7.5-point favorite, 49-point total. In the contest, it's up to 10. That's pretty much the market now. 49.5-point total. Yeah, this is my survivor pick this week. I believe I'm taking the Cowboys, so I'm taking them. Dak should be back, from what I heard anyway, and that's the line that kind of indicates that. 10 points is a lot, though. Are you willing to jump the Cowboys or just stay away?
No, I think that there's a little bit of value on the Denver side in this game. Dak's coming back off the injury, and I think the line tells us that he's going to play, at least as of today. Right. And, the Cowboys are still, after that remarkable cover last week where the whole world was against them, they're still unblemished against the spread, now a healthy 7-0.
That's right.
But I think that I've mentioned this several weeks ago, and I think now it's finally starting to catch them that you're seeing the point spread tax on the Cowboys. This is now the biggest spread that they'll be laying this entire season. Previously, their high was 7.5-point favorites at home against the New York Giants. And I, for one, think that the Denver football team, even though they haven't been covering many numbers lately, they did get off the schneid last week against Washington. Right. And I think that 10 is just too many points in this game. I don't believe that the Cowboys are set up to run away with it.
So Teddy Covers comes back finally, huh?
Back in his familiar underdog role, too, which is important.
I will agree with you that the index says this should be a 6-point game, right, or a 6-point spread. But what do you think is the value of Miller then? So it's just a point or two?
No, not even. I don't even think that should move the needle at all, to be honest with you. I mean, Denver still has a pretty good defense. They're really more built on the secondary. Obviously, Miller and Bradley Chubb, when he was in the lineup, were formidable, but I don't know that Miller by himself is going to be that highly rated above his replacement.
Okay. Let's put it as a yellow. I'm not going on you.
Fair.
On my list, but I hear you. We're disagreeing on a lot of stuff this week, so it'll be fun. Okay, Minnesota at Baltimore. Baltimore opened as a 6-point favorite at home, 49.5-point total. That's pretty much the contest and the consensus. same total, too. Nothing's really moved in this game, which is kind of interesting to me. Look, Minnesota, we know that they are, I don't even know what they are. They're the most up and down team in the league to me. The Ravens got the bye, coming off the bye. John Harbaugh's a better coach than Zimmer. I don't know, but this spread is off for me, though. It's just an index pick. I'm not saying I like the Vikings, but these teams are very close in the index action. They're like back-to-back, so it's hard for me to jump on board. I would rate this a 2-point spread, so a 6 is a big number. I know you're on the Ravens, and I do like the Ravens in general. I don't know if I can get on board with laying the wood here.
Yeah, I understand your perspective, but to me, this one just comes down to a matchup. And like I do for many Ravens games, I always start with the rushing matchup and look at that opponent rush defense. And Minnesota, while their defense is pretty good in general, they're fourth ranked preferred DVOA. They're only 20th against the run.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that they have faced off against a rushing attack quite like this really since last week against the Cowboys.
Right.
And
so you got written it up there.
Mm-hmm. And Minnesota rush defense gives up 4.6 yards per carry, and Baltimore obviously exceeds that on average. So I think that the Ravens rushing attack should be in for a big game.
Okay. I'm gonna stay away for now, buddy. We'll see.
All right.
Talk me back Saturday, tomorrow morning. Let's go with New England against Carolina. New England opened as a 2.5-point favorite on the road, 44.5-point total. It's 3.5 now in the contest with a 41-point total. Now, obviously, you got no Darnold. I don't know if it really matters to me if Darnold or Walker plays, to be honest with you. I mean, they're both kind of bad. I know you love the Patriots. I know you've been on the Patriots band all season. I don't love them being favored on the road, especially with a hook. And again, I think they're going to win the game. So I guess I should go with my initial, hey, they win the game, they cover. But in the index, this is, again, another one of these index deals. I don't love the spread here. I'm not saying that they're going to lose, but I don't know, man. It seems like a little heavy to me for the line for a team that, I mean, yeah, they won a big game last week, got a pick 6, but I don't know. I guess PJ Walker sucks, so it's the Belichick angle against a bad quarterback, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to disagree with your rating on the two. I think PJ Walker is a significant downgrade from Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's been playing a little bit worse recently, Darnold, that is. Yep. PJ Walker in his one entry into the game against the Giants was awful. And in fact, I think of all the quarterbacks who have gotten into games this year, he has the worst QBR of all of them by a significant margin.
Right.
And I think that if he ends up suiting up, which I think it appears that may be the case because Darnold still hasn't cleared protocol, then I think the Carolina offense is in for a world of hurt against Belichick and that defense. I did read that Christian McCaffrey is going to be back this week, so certainly that gives Walker a little bit of an outlet out of the backfield, and I'm sure he'll get involved in the pass game as well. But I do like New England here. I think realistically that if Walker starts, this game should be more like 6. So I think there's some value on the Patriots there.
Sam Darnold is worth a 2.5-point move?
I think so, yeah. I mean, compared to his replacement, you know, if there was a legitimate backup quarterback, like Sam Ehlinger of the Indianapolis Colts, then maybe we're talking about something different. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Cam Newton's on waivers.
That's right. Heck. Reunited and go up against his old team. That would be something, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I know I understand the handicap. It makes sense. I just kind of feel like, I don't know. I mean, everybody's on board. Maybe they, again, Carolina's defense is pretty good. I don't know how good, Mr. Mac Jones over there, he's got his jersey on underneath that Purdue hoodie. I think he's going to struggle in this game. So maybe you're right. Maybe they win 10-3. I don't know. I mean, it could be an easy win, 17-7 or something because they can't score, but we'll see. I guess that's what I'm back.
I will say, though, on that side of the ball, the New England Patriots against the Carolina defense, they've been running the ball a lot more recently. Damian Harris has really gotten some more workload, and the Carolina defense, similarly to Minnesota, is ranked 19th in rush DVOA. So I think while Mac Jones may have a little bit of struggle throwing the ball down the field, I expect this game is going to be pretty low scoring. I really love the under and the first half under 21 as well.
Right.
We'll throw that in there, but I think New England should be able to have some success on the ground, keep the clock moving.
Okay, I'm staying away now. We'll probably have to pick one of these games at some point, but
Right on.
you know. All right, Buffalo goes to Jacksonville. Buffalo's schedule a little easier than I thought. So the 8.5-point favorite opener, 49.5-point total. There's your ambulance action. I know you're worried about it. Buffalo is now 15 in the contest on the road, 48.5-point total. Look, we rode them last week. They did cover the number for us barely. Got a little bit tight, but they did it. This number is pretty much right where I've got it. I had 16. I mean, it's a really good team. That's a lot of points, dude. I hate Jacksonville, but that's too many, right?
No, I don't think so. I backed the Jaguars last week, or no, we talked about it, and they got thoroughly trounced.
Of course they did.
The league's worst defense in Seattle, coming off of the bye.
I couldn't have been more. I told you that. You didn't listen to my handicap.
I know. Regrettably, that was like the one big loser I had last week. But now they're going up against the league's number one defense in the Buffalo Bills. Number one across the board. All right, fifth in rush DVOA, but nearly every other category per Football Outsiders, the Bills defense is number one. And on the flip side, the Jacksonville defense is number 32. I think this should be a pretty wide margin, even more than 15 points. I would consider playing it as a little contrary play.
Okay, well, that one you might be able to talk me into because I do trust the Bills. So many points. Okay. What was it, 14.5 last week or 13.5?
I think it was 15 in the contest as well, and they won by 16. You're right, it might have been 14 in the hook.
Yeah. So let's put it as a yellow. It's like, keep riding the Bills.
And, we mentioned it last week, too, and the same handicap applies. They have no trouble putting their foot on the gas. No. You saw late last week, there was like a minute left when Josh Allen scrambled for that touchdown in the cover. So they have no issue putting points up.
No, I know. It's true. They're going for it. Okay, put it as yellow. Here we go. Big AFC North battle. Cleveland going to Cincinnati. So Cincinnati opened as a 3-point favorite at home, 45-point total. Now it's 2.5, 47-point total. Baker is playing. No?
Mm-hmm.
He is? Okay, he's playing. He didn't play well. The Steelers just stuffed them last week. You got Odell Beckham, which is probably better. Get him off the team. Get the distraction gone. I mean, Chubb's healthy. I don't know, man. Cincinnati fell on their face, and I think that we kind of maybe saw that coming. I mean, not that they were going to lose, but maybe a little too high and mighty for themselves. I don't know, man. This is a tough one. On paper, it's probably the right spread to me. So I don't know if there's a lot of value here. It's a permanent division, and it's inside the 3. So they did a good job in this contest.
Yeah, I think this is a good number too. I really want to lean to the Bengals, and I mean that just comes down to comparing the two quarterbacks and how they played this year. I think that Burrow has been light years better than Baker throughout this entire season. And you would logically seem to think that the Browns would turn to their running game in this matchup, and the Bengals have a really good rush defense. So probably lean to the Bengals, and I really would like to think that they just got caught in a massive sandwich spot last week. They did between the Ravens game and then looking ahead to this Browns matchup in the division. And so you got to think that they're going to play better this week. But it is a really tough game to pick.
Well, the Browns have to win. I mean, they're 4-4. They have to win this game. I mean, this is definitely. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs if they lose, but they're getting in that situation, right? They lost to the Steelers already. They lost. Have they played the Ravens yet? Maybe not.
No, they play them twice down the stretch.
So, I mean, these are big games, and I haven't seen the Cleveland that we thought they'd be. So, I don't know. I'd prefer to stay away just because, I mean, it's going to be a fun game to watch, probably a grudge match, but I kind of like the AFC North games. They usually are pretty competitive. Obviously the Bengals weren't that competitive, but usually they are.
I think that's probably a good game plan for us. The one thing I do want to monitor is the Browns' secondary injuries. Denzel Ward ended up not playing last week, and I think he's going to be key in this matchup against that Bengals passing attack.
Right, right. Let's talk about this one. The Raiders are going to the Giants. The Raiders open as a 2.5-point favorite on the road, 47.5-point total. It's 3 in the contest. The total ticked down to 46.5. I know you're on the Giants, at least in the write-up here. Look, I don't know, man. I've heard a lot of different things, but I'm just going to try to trust the index. The index went 6-1 last week. It was incredible. I'm not saying I do it every week, but the Raiders are a much better team than the Giants, period. So let me just put that out there. The 3 is actually a good number. I mean, I hoped it was 2.5. But more importantly, the Giants, from what I've heard, have 0 home field advantage. They did beat Carolina, yes. They're a much better road team. They're a road dog team. And obviously they have one game's home. But you think that it's going to be another, because it's West Coast going to the East Coast, and because of this Ruggs thing, they'll be shaken up. I mean, he does influence the offense, obviously, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and he and Carr were starting to build some rapport. Obviously, that came out directly in his press conference yesterday.
Yep.
So I do think that he's going to be a loss, but I don't think that on the football field it's really going to impact the Raiders' offense too terribly. The bigger concern I have is just their history in these games coming out of the bye. They're 3-15 straight up coming out off the bye in the last 18 years. So it seems like it's an organizational thing, and then couple that with the fact that they're traveling to the East Coast, and then add the Ruggs drama on top of that. I just think it's a really tough spot for them to come and give their A game.
Right.
And I've just so many times have seen the Raiders fall flat on their face, and I would just hate to lose one on our card due to that. I don't really like the Giants, though, to be honest with you. I'd prefer probably just a Raiders or pass.
Yeah, it's probably pass. I mean, I'm not all on the Raiders, but yeah, pass.
The Giants had a ton of COVID scares this week too. I think their running backs coach did test positive twice, so he's certainly out this weekend. They had a lot of tests that came back as false positives, but then there's some more that are piling up. So definitely something to monitor as well.
Well, how about this one? Can I interest you in a New Orleans against Atlanta matchup? You've got New Orleans is open as a 5.5-point favorite at home, 45.5-point total. Now they're 6.5 at home, down to 42.5. Obviously, Ridley being out of the Atlanta lineup hurts them quite a bit. You've seen that so far. Trevor Siemian's the quarterback. He played fine, but we know that he's not a great NFL quarterback. 6.5 is a pretty big number, but God, I mean, if this wasn't a divisional matchup, looking at the numbers, Saints are going to crush them. That's the way I look at it. But it's a divisional matchup, so I'm a little bit scared of the 6.5. But I did pick Saints in my preseason or pregame write-up.
Okay. Yeah, this one is really tough too. I agree that the Saints seem like they would be the play, but I just have concern that this offense has the ability to score enough to cover this number.
Right.
I love the under. I played it personally already, and I know it's been trending down. I think my second favorite bet in this is the Atlanta team total under as well, looking at 17 or 17.5, because I'm not really sure how the Falcons are going to score in this game.
Right.
Without Ridley, it allows the defenses to key in on Kyle Pitts, and Gage is really their only other weapon in the offense. They've been keeping Patterson in the backfield recently. So the Saints defense is going to have a very successful day.
What's the Saints ranking in DVOA? Are they 1 or 2? Or they're behind Buffalo, I guess, in the defensive streak?
They're third ranked in defensive DVOA. Arizona's at second.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're incredible. So, man, this is okay. First of all, America, this is the game you tease. You tease this one down to the half point and pick another one. We could talk another one, but this is definitely one, maybe with Baltimore or something like that. Well, we'll see. I guess we can pass it. I did have them as a pick, one of the few favorites that I picked this week on my, on the index picks. I'm blind to the index.
I mean, on the others, the question really should come down to the handicap on the other side of the ball.
Yep.
Do we think that New Orleans, Trevor Siemian, potentially, who's the other quarterback? Taysom Hill is back this week out of a concussion. which could be somewhat troublesome because his game is obviously running the football. And
Right.
now that they're down to 2 quarterbacks, you got to figure they're going to be careful about getting another one injured.
Yeah, I mean, what's Atlanta's run defense like?
25th against the run, 29th against the pass, 30th overall. Certainly not good on any metric.
I just think they get there, man. I think they're going to pound this team. I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to beat them like 30-0, but it could be like a 17-7, 17-3 game. I mean, Kamara's going to get the ball. He's going to run the ball well. They're going to get enough, passes out there. We didn't even mention, not that it matters, Michael Thomas out for the year. He was supposed to come back and hurt himself again.
Good riddance.
But look, I mean, the only thing I worry about is that it is a divisional rival, and I mean, it isn't like Arthur Smith has been in the division much. So, but that's my only fear about this one. So I go yellow. Yeah, good call, yellow.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Payton certainly has their number. I'm looking at the recent head-to-head history. The Saints have covered in 7 out of the last 8 games against Atlanta. So I do understand Arthur Smith, new head coaching regime in Atlanta, but Payton certainly knows how to beat his division rivals.
He does. So, all right, I'm feeling better about it, but let's keep yellow. Okay. All right, here we go. Chargers, Philadelphia. This is great for my company mates. So the Philly is actually a home dog in this one. The Chargers 3-point favorite on the opener, 50-point total, but it's down to 1.5 on the road for the Chargers, and still 50-point total. Originally, I liked the Eagles in this one because actually they're better in the index, which is, this is what happened, but sometimes that doesn't always work. But I don't know, man. The Chargers, they've definitely taken a dive after, getting the big wins early. Now it seems like they're hitting the skids. But the Eagles, can they run the ball? And this is the thing about the Chargers. Can they run the ball? Because they're not really a running team.
Or will they choose to?
Yeah, right. And the Chargers at some point are going to find their stride again. So I'm not bullish, on picking the Eagles, even though they're an index pick. What are your thoughts?
I think you hit the nail on the head. This handicap comes down to whether or not the Eagles will run the ball or have – I know they'll have success because the Chargers' run defense is a big problem for them. They're 32nd ranked against the run, and they're giving up 5.1 yards per carry to their opponents. And Philadelphia certainly is capable. The thing is, they just are only running the ball on 35% of their snaps.
Right.
So,
and that's with a running quarterback.
Yeah, and they're without Miles Sanders now too, which makes me wonder if they are going to shy away from it again. But surely Sirianni and his offensive coaching staff know what the splits are too.
Right.
So you have seen, again, week after week after week, there are some groups in the pro betting industry that love the Eagles. Mm-hmm. I think that the number has moved their direction in every game this season. And again, this week, it's now trending towards a pick 'em. I don't know what the current number is, but I think it's better than the 1.5 in the contest.
I see 1.5 right now. But,
okay.
It's funny. In the past, remember, we've had these teams like this. Last year was the Chargers. Remember, the Chargers were the best team. It's like role reversal. They were a bet on team. Who was the other team last year? It was like everybody bet on them, but they couldn't win. The Eagles could win. I mean, they could win the game. We'll see. But I can't back the Eagles here. I think it's a Chargers or pass, even though it's an index pick. So I'm going against you, index. Sorry. But I don't know. It's hard. If the number was bigger, if it was stayed at the 3, I would be all over the Eagles. But I just don't like that short number for the Chargers.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be contrarian too, given the news and the move this week. What do you think about the Chargers offense matching up against the Philly defense? Do you think that Herbert and company will be able to have success on that side of the ball?
Well, what has been stopping this offense? I don't understand. It was like gangbusters for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then now it just seems they must have figured something out. I know that Herbert is turning the ball over more. I mean, you expect that against the Patriots to get confused and stuff. But the Ravens, I got the spot because they went across the country. They had the big win, letdown spot. I don't know. I would think they can, but I mean, the Eagles, it's always their defensive front. They've got that good defensive front. So you put pressure on any quarterback, he's going to give the ball up.
Yeah. This is a tough one. I would consider the Chargers, though. We should color it yellow.
Okay. All right, let's go to this one. This is an interesting one. We got Green Bay going to Kansas City. Kansas City opened as a 2.5-point favorite at home, 53.5-point total. As soon as the news came out about Rodgers, shot all the way up to 7.5 in the contest. It's about 7 in the market right now, 48-point total. I can't back the Chiefs. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, this team sucks. We talked about it. Maybe they can cover. I mean, Jordan Love, God, I mean, can we really back Jordan Love? When it came out at a 0.5 point for the Chiefs, I was all over Green Bay with Rodgers. And obviously it makes sense. You get 7 more points. That's too big of a move for one guy, right? Maybe not. So I can't back the Chiefs here, actually, but can I really jump on board and his first career start at Arrowhead is Jordan Love? I don't know if I can do it. Not for a contest pick.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I think I would, for a half minute, consider the Chiefs. And I got to tell a story. I got lucky because last week I was trying to play my look-ahead game and figured that Green Bay would struggle against Arizona on Thursday night and try to get ahead. And I laid 2.5 with the Chiefs. And of course, Monday morning, the numbers come out, and immediately it moves to the Packers -1. And I'm thinking, damn it, I have a bad bet here. And I got lucky with closing line value. Of course, that doesn't mean anything until this game is played. But I agree. I think that it would probably be tough to back the Chiefs winning by 7.5 points here. Even though we talked about earlier, they're going to have to try and run the ball and take what the defense gives them. And you've got to figure that on the other side, the Packers are going to have the same game plan and just pound those running backs into submission because the Chiefs have a shitty run defense. So it comes down to Jordan Love probably, and it's a big unknown in my mind.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if you got the Stones, I wouldn't back the Chiefs. I'd back the Pack because I don't think they're necessarily, well, they're a better team on paper, at least in index-wise, but that's, of course, with Rodgers. And their defense is playing pretty good. Like last year, their defense wasn't very good. It's actually the offense that is not that good this year, actually. I mean, you look at the metrics, even with Rodgers, they're in the 20s and stuff. They're not really scoring that many points. They're playing games a little differently, so maybe it will work to their advantage. I mean, I want to see LaFleur. I haven't seen this guy without Rodgers, so I don't know what to expect, And so, being a prudent guy, I'd stay away. I mean, if you want to tease this game down, I could see that maybe, but Chiefs barely cover numbers against crappy teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
historically, the Packers have been really bad without Aaron Rodgers, though. So it's just tough with this given opponent to try and look to bet on the Chiefs covering a big number right now against any team.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's go to a little more interesting game. Arizona against San Francisco. Arizona opens as a 3-point favorite on the road, 47-point total. And the contest is down to 1, and it's 1.5 across the board. Actually, is it that? So it's 45-point total. Actually, we talked about this.
2.5.
It's 2.5, so it flipped. So that's right. It's 2.5. They're actually San Francisco's favored now by 2.5, right? Mm-hmm. Because we expect that Murray's not going to play. So is this like an auto pick again? Is this exactly like the Dak thing? Now we got burned last week on it, as everybody else in the contest did.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different story. I think San Francisco's defense is pretty good, even though you have a lot of points to the Bears somehow. But San Francisco's due, man. They got to win a game at home at some point, right?
Yeah, they've been so bad at home the last several years. It's like they have 0.0 home field advantage.
Yes.
But even before I saw this trending down and looking at, obviously the points were higher at that time, but I've liked the Niners since opening Monday morning this week, and that's more due to the play that I saw from Jimmy G last week. I think that he showed some more confidence, and he was getting outside the pocket and running it a little bit, which helped their offense. I think he scored twice on the ground last week, and they're supposed to get back Trent Williams on the offensive line, and George Kittle is anticipating to return to the lineup. So they're looking to get a little bit more healthy, And I think that going against the Arizona Cardinals, who are not healthy at all, not only Kyler Murray's injury, but DeAndre Hopkins could barely stay on the field last Thursday night. And I think this is a really tough spot for the Cardinals.
And we mentioned J.J. Watt was missing last week, so maybe that was a factor in their loss. Sorry, I'm right by this road. Can you hear this noise?
Uh-huh.
Somebody's jamming the rock over here. Well, I like it. We went with them last time, San Francisco against Arizona, and it looked like the right side. They just kind of couldn't get in the back door there. Mm-hmm. And that was Trey Lance, who, wasn't good. So I'm with you. I think we go San Francisco on a green.
Yeah, ditto. It's going to be a heavy picked game, but I think at this point, like we talked about, we just need to stack up some wins.
Right. All right. We got the Sunday night game. This was going to be, it's still going to be a big game. Tennessee just keeps going, man. They keep winning big games. They're going to the Rams, though. Rams open as a 4-point favorite at home, 52-point total, all the way up to 7.5 action, and a 53-point total. Before all the Henry news, I was definitely going to be on the Rams side, no question, because this kind of incredible mystery tour that they're putting on for Tennessee, it's not smoke and mirrors, but metrically this isn't a very good team. They keep winning these games. It's kind of a mystery. This team's okay. They're really good on offense. Their defense is terrible. So at some point the luck's going to run out. It's definitely going to be this time 7.5. I hate the hook action, but I might still get on board. It might just be a popular pick.
Yeah, I really like the Rams too, and obviously wished that it wasn't a 7.5. I think that obviously Henry is going to be a huge downgrade for the offense, and Julio Jones is also going to be out again this week. So now that's going to let the Rams just key in on Brown. I have to figure that Jalen Ramsey is just going to line up and take Brown out of the game. So without that as the offense, I don't really see how the Titans are going to be able to do much moving the ball or putting points on the board. And on the flip side, the Rams passing game has just been lights out this year with Cooper Kupp and Stafford's connection. I don't see how the Titans are going to stop them. So I would like to back the Rams here and put our money down on that 7.5, even despite the number.
Yeah, me too. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I'm gonna say my teaser is the Saints and Rams this week.
Nice, like it.
So yeah, it's an auto pick for me for the Rams. Good.
And
hey, we like greens. I like
one
greens.
Other note I wanted to mention: this is an ultimate letdown spot for the Titans, coming off 3 massive AFC wins versus Buffalo, Kansas City, and Indy. Now they're going out of conference to play against the Rams. Like, what incentive do they have to play hard in this game?
Right. Exactly. Totally agree. Action. They got to lose at some point. Okay, so last game, Monday Night Football, Battle of Blue Bloods, the Mighty Bears going to the Steelers. Boy, this game seemed a lot better in the preseason. Pittsburgh opened as a 5-point favorite at home, 40.5-point total. It's up to 6.5 for the Steelers at home and the 39-point total. So we're going to see a real beautiful offensive game here on Monday night. Only can take one side in the Steelers here, action, but I don't know if I can back him at 6.5. We talked about Tomlin, and he's terrible at covering numbers. I don't know if I can back the Bears, though. And the Steelers' defense is still decent. You know what I mean? They showed it last week, and obviously Fields played really well last week, but this is going to be a rough outing. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I can't back him. Can't back either team here.
That's fair. I really do think that there's value with the Bears, though. I mean, on one hand, you do foresee Justin Fields having a long night, and I anticipate that's going to happen. But on the other side, I just don't see how the Steelers' offense is set up to cover a number in the 6.5 range. So I think just by that alone, looking at this total, like 39 points now, there's pretty good value on the Bears. I personally set a little reminder here for myself to look out for a 7, hoping that pops up, because if that does, I'll pounce on it personally. But I would consider putting the Bears on our card if I could talk you into it tomorrow morning.
You're going to talk me into one of those other ones against that's quicker than this. Okay. It's only because, look, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. The thing is, it's like there's so many different handicaps working here. The Steelers, Tomlin, if he's a big favorite, and this isn't big, but it's big enough, he's terrible at covering these numbers. He's terrible. They're much better, in an underdog spot. They're at home Monday night. I mean, Steelers usually do win Monday. Like they do win primetime games, but the Bears, man, like I don't know what team to expect. Is it going to be the team that comes out and doesn't get a first down against the Browns? I mean, obviously Fields was running for his life last week and ran great, and I like the kid Herbert. I think it's possible Montgomery's going to play. I don't think he's going to, but I know he's potentially going to come back. But man, the Steelers defense is going to be good, and I really expect them. I mean, like you said, it could be just a blood sport out there, 13-10 or 14-10, like one of these really rough games to watch. And you're right, there's value in a big spread like that, but I don't think I can help everybody.
The Steelers average 19 points a game too, so for them to cover 6.5 is asking a lot.
Yeah, 19-13 doesn't get the job done. What do the Bears average per game?
15.4.
Exactly. There you go. That's why they're in that mid-30s. Good God. I mean, the Bears' offense is like the worst in the league, dude. It's ugly, man. Ugly.
Yeah.
And thank God we have an offensive coach.
I do like Herbert, but I think you're right. The Steelers have a great run defense, so you're going to have to see Fields connect on some passes on Monday.
All right, well, let's kind of go over our picks, even though it was a little bloodbath. But let's go over the greens. San Francisco and the Rams. We're on the NFC West, guys. That's 2 greens. We've got some yellows here. We've got Denver on the road against Dallas because of that big number. And Dallas, some point, is not going to cover a number. Buffalo, laying the 15 on the road. Woohoo! New Orleans was on our card. 6 points, 6.5 at home against Atlanta. And then the ones that we could probably discuss, the Chargers. Being 1.5 point short favorites on the road. So we've got some to pick from there. Not too many. I mean, the ones that you might have to talk me into, your Giants, your Patriots, and your Ravens. Ravens are probably the one we could put as a yellow. Okay. I consider, just because I do trust the Ravens.
All right. Let me update that one. A lot of favorites here on our highlighted picks this week. I think the Denver Broncos are really the only underdog that we're considering at this point. Except for the Bears, maybe.
Yeah, right. Talk me into it now. That's right. But technically, the Niners are not a favorite in the contest.
Valid.
But yes, you're right. And that's kind of contrary to what we've seen all season. But we'll see.
We hit it on the top of the show. A big underdog week last week. So we could be looking at a bounce back for the Faves.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's go over the contest details right now. We've got, if I can get down there in my spreadsheet for some reason. Here we go. So we actually did okay, but we didn't we made up ground on the field, but not the top. So the top dogs are coming back. So 31-9, so they're actually coming back to the pack. We're getting closer action. But the top 50 is at 28-12. We're 5.5 picks back. We were 5.5 last week because basically the top guys also went 3-2. But overall, at 22-17-1, we're at 1180 first place, which it's not bad. I mean, it's still about top quarter. We've made a comeback. We were down pretty far for a minute there, and obviously our second quarter total is not great. We've got one more week in the quarter, but yeah, I think we're doing pretty well overall. And we get another 4-1. I think we're going to be right in the mix.
Yeah, definitely. I like where we're at, and we're seeing the WEGS index really come into shape here. So I think this is where we hit our kick and really make a move here on the pack. We can eyeball that third quarter to make our big move and hopefully go after a little bit of cash there.
Yeah, let's get some cash action. I mean, tell you, stuff on it. It's hard out here for a pimp here. Anyway, so yeah, let me just look at where we were at last year. Yeah, I mean, last year at this time we weren't too much better. I mean, we were basically about the same spot, through this many weeks. Yeah, 22. It's like we're half better.
Wow.
So consistency. So, all right. Well, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right. Good luck, everybody, and thanks for being patient with us coming out a little late.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.